Wish TV. All Indiana Politics
is your premier source for Indiana politics.
Focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics on this Sunday. Let's start with the push. For COVID-19 relief for families and businesses, the U.S. Senate returns to work in D.C. tomorrow. Democrats will continue their push to pass President Biden's $1.9 trillion plan. Republicans criticize the plan, saying that it goes too far and forces the federal government deeper into debt. One of those is Indiana Senator Mike Braun.
So I know that you are a champion for a limited government. Yep. Yet has the government done enough for businesses, or are you saying they have, it's just not being allocated?
You got to go back to what government maybe did before COVID. If you're a place like Indiana, you've got reasonable tax rates, you've got reasonable regulations, you've got a climate where a lot of Illinoisans are moving in to Indiana. Many are moving out of California and New York. And in the places that had that good, healthy setting to begin with, there's no way you could escape the particularity of what I just described with certain businesses. But the environment is much healthier then. It's healthier going through it. We know a lot more about the disease. And thank goodness we had a thing called warp speed, because early on I was observing the CDC and FDA arguing about who was going to handle the vaccine. Thank goodness it was the industry, with them being galvanized by an administration that got us a vaccine within a year when everybody else was saying 4 to 6 years. It's the only way we get it in the rearview mirror, and we've learned a lot about it. My opinion, businesses, other entities, always were respectful of their employees and their customers, should have been given more latitude to navigate through it in a responsible way, and I think we now see that, and Indiana's basically reflected that.
A lot of issues with the vaccine rollout. How do you think Indiana has done compared to the rest of the country, and who is credited or faulted with successes and failures for this?
Number one, 90% of the credit needs to be given to warp speed, or we wouldn't even be talking about the logistics of distributing a vaccine. When anything is done largely through government, it's probably not going to work as well as, say, a FedEx or a UPS would do it. But we're getting there. And when you have 3 or 4 major pharmaceutical companies that are ramped up to do what they're doing, I think you better put the politics aside in the sense that I'm hearing that there's been some carping about what occurred once Biden took over. I think you need to look at the most important thing. You had a vaccine to deal with in the first place. And I think as long as we do learn from maybe some of the mistakes that have been made on how you get it out, who gets it first, that there's certainly a broad interest across the country for everybody to, get their vaccine and get this ugly chapter in the rearview mirror.
Teachers in Indiana have been pushing to be given priority. Do you think that they should be given priority for vaccines?
That's a little ironic, but yes, because I think it's important that they should. But on the other hand, the data has shown, and I think you need to be consistent when you say you're paying attention to the data, that it was one of the places where you're having the least transmission. In visiting all the schools I have during this whole COVID consideration, they would be at the top of the line in terms of being careful for their students and their teachers. And I think you saw some places like Chicago, LA, and others where not coming back to the classroom before you demanded getting vaccinated probably didn't sit very well with parents and most of the citizens in those respective places.
So they should be given priority or shouldn't?
I think that each state ought to look at that on their own merit, and if Places like Indiana, I think that it's not been as loud a cry for it. To me, it deserves some priority, but I think we've done it about right here.
Last, I want to end with Nancy Pelosi launching an investigation into the January 6th riots. Some have compared it to the 9/11 investigation. Is that necessary in your view?
You know, I think she's doing that like she does many things, with a strong political angle to it. I think that, you know, I was there that day. We all lived through it as senators and representatives, and that we know that most of the reasons that security probably wasn't what it should have been, but it did happen. And whether you want to call it a 9/11 investigation, I'm for, as a business owner and one that's critical of government in general, to do things like self-criticism, commissions, and so forth. I would just beg the question of, are you going to do it in other areas too? I won't mention them. Maybe that is consistent with other areas that need improvement as well.
You voted against the impeachment of President Donald Trump. Do you think he holds any responsibility for that day?
You know, I don't think that you can take away saying there was no responsibility there. I think when you do push the envelope in ways that might have been characteristic of how he has run his office, this one I don't think was ever intended, but it got out of hand, and it was one that I think everybody says we don't want to see repeat itself again. And when you look at the constitutional issue, you look at the due process issue, you look at the First Amendment consideration, let alone the merits of the case, I'm happy with the vote I made, because so often things get so caustic politically that you end up maybe making a vote that would unleash a Pandora's box of issues down the road.
Senator, thank you.
You bet.
And Brooke, thank you very much. Coming up next, the daughter of a former Republican governor wants Indiana to be the next chair, I should say, of the Indiana Democratic Party, and she thinks Indiana could be the new Georgia. We talk with her next on All Indiana Politics. And welcome back to All Indiana Politics on this Sunday. We're now just over 1 month away from learning who will be the next chair of the Indiana Democratic Party, and one of the two announced candidates, Trish Whitcomb, the daughter of former Republican Governor Ed Whitcomb. Whitcomb was a campaign manager for Democrat Glenda Ritz's upset win in 2012 to become Superintendent of Public Instruction. She most recently served as Executive Director of the Indiana Retired Teachers Association.
Let's welcome in Trish Whitcomb now. Trish, thanks so much for joining us. I want to start with the current state of the Democratic Party. In your mind, what is it?
Full of hopeful people, I can tell you that. There are a lot of people around Indiana who do support Democrats, and we made some marginal gains but didn't win in some important races. And so I would say that there are a lot of people out there who need to know more about the Democratic Party, and then I think we'll get their support.
You worked with Glenda Ritz's campaign for superintendent. That was back in 2012.
Right.
That was one of the last Democrat races statewide to be successful. Does that tell you anything about what it's going to take in 2022, 24?
Yes, it does. And remember, we went blue in 2008 for Barack Obama. People vote for a reason. Either they're very unhappy or they really want to see a change. And for the last several election cycles, I think we've seen the unhappiness come out in voters. That's why the Trump wave was so strong, and that carried a lot of down ballot races with it. I think that we need to start talking about the kitchen table issues that really impact Hoosiers on a day-to-day basis. And that is where we're going to get people voting for something, like they did vote for the change that Barack Obama represented and the change that Glenda Ritz represented.
What are some of those issues?
Oh, thank you for asking.
Sure.
I'll tell you a little story. My father was a Republican governor in Indiana many years ago. And when I was in college, he and I would talk about things and talk about government policies and politics and campaigns and all that sort of thing. And at that time, a good quality public education, good quality protection for the environment, and a tax structure that was fair for individuals and also supported local governments, we agreed on all of those things, but we had different ways of getting there. But now I don't think that the Republican Party is emphasizing those goals, and so I believe that those are the things that we will be talking to Hoosiers about over the next several years, and with that will come some victories.
Yeah, we talked with Mike Schmull, another candidate for party chair last week. He pointed out the money that he raised for the Pete Buttigieg campaign for president. Do you think Indiana needs that national spotlight to get that type of fundraising and attention?
I'll tell you, I did direct voter contact for 2 successful congressional races in Indiana that were very rural and very red. I did the successful voter contact for Governor Bai in 1988, and then of course Glenda's race. In all cases, except for Evan Bai, we were massively outfunded by our opponents. And so I think you have to have enough money to do the basics right, but you also have to have that grassroots network going out there and talking to neighbors. That is what really gets people elected.
It seems like you have found the method that works, but as a whole, what have Democrats done wrong the past 8 years? Why has the party struggled in Indiana so much?
I think one thing is that our county parties have been left to their own devices, and there has been a big emphasis on picking a race at the top of the ticket, and the state party promoting that race and offering technical assistance to the counties and trying to have some branding with them. But I believe we've got to start at the ground. We've got to rebuild those county parties. We have got to get people talking to their neighbors, as I said before, and that is how we're going to build on the way up. Our county parties and our local parties have been decimated by this focus on one big race, and we've got to get back to electing township trustees, commissioners, and other people on that local level to start building up our bench and to start building the support that we need to elect members to the legislature and to Congress, and then, of course, in 2022, the Senate.
Well, ironically, there's been the same frustration on the national level for states. Have you felt that same disconnect?
Yes, yes. And that is why everyone's looking to Georgia and to the Stacey Abrams miracle, which took 10 years. And so if I have 10 years to work that same miracle, I'll be a happy woman. I don't think it'll take 10 years here in Indiana, but her strength was in bringing coalitions together and having that work very smoothly over a period of time. She also raised $5 million, and that had to be a help too.
Will Indiana follow in Georgia's footsteps and turn blue?
I believe we will. I believe we will. Maybe not in 22, but we have this whole time with no elections right now where we can get together, we can talk about our plans for the future, build that strategic plan that will take us through to victory in November.
Trish Wickham, thanks for your time.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you. Last week, we talked with the other announced candidate, Mike Schmull. He was one of the key leaders in South Bend, Mayor Pete Buttigieg's campaign for president. You can watch that interview online right now at wishtv.com or listen on our All Indiana Politics podcast. Democrats will name their new state party chair on March 20th. We'll keep you posted. Coming up, a pair of controversies for new Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita, including a tweet about a stolen 2020 election. That's next on All Indiana Politics. And welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome back Democrat Brian Gaddy and Republican April Gregory. Good to see you both. Happy Sunday. Let's start today by talking about Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita and 2 controversies coming from his office. First, this tweet sent out 1 week ago today on Valentine's Day. "You stole my heart like a 2020 election." Twitter labeled it with a warning about false information, false election information, then removed the label. Then the revelations that he's still working for the company that he worked for prior to winning the election. His office says they received a review from the Inspector General approving the setup, but they have refused to release that publicly. April, I want to get your thoughts on this, your reaction to both controversies.
Okay. Well, as far as the meme goes, we spent 3.5 years being told Russia hoax, being told that election was illegitimate. so now have an election where there are actual concerns, where states literally did not follow the Constitution of their elections. I'm not going to be told that there is controversy with him posting that post, because there are millions and millions of people who think there was problems with this election. And I'm okay with that. But that was on his personal account, and what he was doing in office, in real life, he's working with State Senator Houchin to work on a bill that will prevent these temporary changes that were made for this past election from becoming permanent, and thus more fraud happening.
Brian,
So,
I'll get to you in a second,
goes,
but
I think
go ahead, April. I want you to
was-
talk about his job history, because that's really, I think, getting a lot of pushback from both sides.
Right. So I know the job is a different limited role now that he's in the AG's office. And as far as if you look at the disclosure forms that are public, you can see that other statewide officials have second jobs or businesses. You can see that as far as the General Assembly goes, most people elected in the General Assembly have other jobs or own businesses. And there's a careful process for both parties to make sure there is no impropriety going on. And the Inspector General released an informal report that shows that there wasn't. So
fair enough, April, but
with
the other elected officials aren't the Attorney General who could wind up deciding cases in regards to specifically health insurance. I think that's fair to say as well. Brian, I want to get you in here. Your response to both of these?
Well, it's just Tarakita continuing the big lie. It's been adjudicated with 60 cases, and the Trump team lost all of them, including a major lawsuit that Indiana participated in that was led by Texas. That was also it was actually not even brought up by the U.S. Supreme Court. They didn't even listen to the case. So Tarakita is embarrassing our state just like his predecessor, Curtis Hill, did. And Tarakita just needs to do his job. And we don't need him sending out silly tweets that embarrass not just the great state of Indiana, but embarrass himself. And regarding his job, his only job should be as the Attorney General of the state of Indiana. He shouldn't be working anywhere else, period.
Let's talk national politics now, guys. President Biden has been in office for a month and a day now. Brian, is he living up to your expectations as the Democrat on this panel?
He's exceeding my expectations. I was a very strong supporter of President Biden. I'm very happy he is our current president of the United States. And we do need to pass that $1.9 trillion COVID package, because we have so many Hoosiers and Americans that are hurting because of the incompetence of the previous administration. And President Biden is doing a great job. He has my 100% support.
April, I'm assuming you feel differently.
I mean, I haven't received my $2,000 check yet. Have you? Have you? I mean, Brian, no. All he's done is reverse Trump decisions just for the sole sake that it was Trump that made them. Executive order after executive order. And can we also talk about why is he not doing anything about Cuomo in New York, who killed thousands of people in nursing homes?
You would like to see him step up on that?
Absolutely.
Brian, it's a fair point.
No, it's not a fair point, because President Biden is not responsible for what happened in the state of New York. President Biden is too busy cleaning up former president, I enjoy saying that, former President Trump's messes. And that's a full-time joth, because he left so many landmines behind for President Biden to fix.
All right, hold on one second. Both of you guys, I can't listen to you both at the same time. Brian, I think it is a fair point, because he did praise Cuomo for quite a while, and he has been very silent on the news that came out a couple of weeks ago. He hasn't even mentioned it.
Well, he hasn't mentioned it because the fact he's got so much on his plate in Washington. Like I said, fixing up former President Trump's messes. So it's going to be investigated. What's happening up there with the numbers, the numbers of deaths with nursing homes in New York. It is under federal investigation. So I don't know why President Biden is obligated to comment on an ongoing federal investigation. Let the federal investigation continue forward and let the chips fall where they may. But
10
President
seconds
Biden
left.
has a
April,
full-time job
get
trying
April
to
in here
fix.
real quick. We're running out of time. April, 10
Trump's
seconds left. Response.
Yeah, the only thing Biden has been doing, as we've seen the media report on, is executive orders and playing Mario and Luigi with his granddaughters.
Okay, Fair enough. April, Brian, always good to see you. We'll see you soon. Thank you for taking some time. We'll be following a big week in the State House, including House votes on ending gun permits and the state's budget. And we'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network at wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.